Looking at that car and knowing your love of Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch on PBS All Creatures Great and Small?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what I appreciate about that show is when I look at this Austin, I believe it's the Vauxhall in that show.
Yeah.
The sound of the straight cut gears.
Right.
Is what I just, the sound effect in that is, I just love the sound of those gears.
Yeah. Those little roads where the car goes up and down and around.
Yeah.
The Yorkshire Dales, the sheep free range, there's no guardrails, there's no hedges, no line. Going with a bike ride with a bunch of people, and we rode over to a place called Kirkby Stephen via Reeth, which is the highest pub in England. After our pub stop, I was pretty much 3 sheets to the wind, and I start to stand to go up a hill because I'm on a borrowed bicycle. And the gearing's unfamiliar. I'm just going up the hill, and these 2 guys pass me. And Norman Taylor, the Taylor brothers, rides up beside me and says, they want you to chase him, lad. So the drunk American chases the 2 guys who are working together and the other group of Englishmen. So if you were to watch this in the aerial view from the drone, you would see the 2 of them, and you would see me, and you would see the group of people laughing. And when I came down into Kirkby Stephen, they were standing on the village green, leaning up their bikes there, and they had a stopwatch that said, mint down, not bad for a yank. So.
Well, I'm here with Gary Kulchock, Chip Wamsley. We're at GSL. We're kind of winding down after the banquet, getting a chance to sit down and relax. I'm sure you know these guys and their models, veteran builders. You have an Austin 7 here?
This is an Austin 7, and one of the cool things about our hobby is people challenge each other. And so one of my friends, Pico Elgin, down in Atlanta, likes really old, weird, funky cars, and he knows that I'm a bicycle person. And so he sent me this picture of this promotional car built in 1929 for the Dunlop Bicycle Saddle Company. They were trying to promote rubber saddles, and they wanted to make them look like traditional leather saddles. And so they ended up, making this car to drive around to events. And they said, rubber saddles don't break down. They don't need to be broken in. They never wear out. You can ride them in the rain, which is important in England. And almost immediately, I respond and say, so Pico, the NNL's coming up in 4 weeks, so that a challenge? He said, yeah. And so then I get a message from Andy Martin, and Andy goes, well, that's based on a Austin 7, so you get the Heller Dixie kit, which was the European version.
Oh, really?
And so within like an hour, I have accepted this challenge. I'm on eBay. I find one on Buy It Now. I get the car 2 weeks later. And so I start building this little bicycle seat car and, vacuum form that on my Mattel vacuum form, and which is good because it's small and worked well for that.
Perfect scale for that.
Machined little copper rivets. But it was just fun doing that, and to show up then a month later with the car done and say, hey, there you go. But it's kind of the interesting part of the hobby, why people help each other and then they challenge each other and things like that, which is kind of cool.
I think over the years that's really developed well.
Yes.
I've been given some challenges recently that I'm like, I would have never built that, but I can't wait to try it.
Right.
Just to go through the exercise, because it is a pleasure of the build.
Yeah.
Are the wheels from the Heller kit?
The wheels are from the Heller kit. I just cleaned them up a little bit because I wasn't going to take a ton of time. It took a lot of engineering, and a lot of people don't realize in building models a lot of engineering goes into anything that you do modifications. On this, I had to figure out what this bicycle seat was going to look like from a 3/4 view from the rear of this car. So I ended up taking lots of file cards and cutting them, taping them together, and then setting them, compare the picture. And finally, I made a little wooden buck, and I chopped it where I could vacuum form the back part and the front part and do the 2 side parts. And then you use a little evergreen for some of the tooling, little tiny evergreen rod, and little solder balls for the little indents that were hand tooling for the leather. And so you can replicate all those things, and that was kind of the fun part of it. And you got a little bit of shiny bits, and of course it's an older car, so the shiny bits aren't so shiny. And then the leather's dull because it's supposed to look like leather. But probably the toughest thing is making all the interior fit, the cutout fit the interior in there so it all looked like the photo I had, and to get the panel lines on the outside of this match the door lines on the inside. And those little details, but a lot of people, that's putting this in the detail. That's the
why
fun.
We're here.
Yeah.
Quiet moment at the bench where we do cool stuff.
And
think it through.
Funny because Andy Martin built this kit And I bought this. I saw a picture of me at the last GSL, and this was under the arm in the vendor area. I could see the label, the Firebird III label. And I started building. When I came home immediately, I was all jazzed about building it. And I thought, you know, it'd be really cool to have this back at the show, and I'll see Andy there. Yeah. So, I mean, it just shows you how eclectic we can be. And
this was a resin kit that he sold?
This was a resin kit that he sold.
Under Aardvark?
Under Aardvark.
Under Aardvark name. Yeah.
Which I love. He picked Aardvark because he'd be first in the phone book.
It was good seeing him here this weekend. What was his reaction when he saw it?
He loved it. He loved it. But, you know, he liked the fact that, you know, I built this, and so he says, yeah, bring it. But it's fun stuff.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
You guys have such a good time. You did that tour. You were at Silverstone, Goodwood.
Yeah.
Silverstone,
Goodwood. We went all over the place.
Haynes Museum, the National Car Museum out there, and
Aston Martin Trust,
Lotus
Factory Tour, Morgan Factory Tour.
I mean, we just spent 2 weeks of nothing but cars.
2 intense weeks.
Great.
Don't go through a Morgan Factory Tour because you want to buy one. I mean, literally, it's amazing to see all the
very cool.
All the hand-on work and everything is crazy.
Yeah. True craftsmanship.
Even the people that were buying the Morgan, they allow them to come in and actually work on their car as it's being built. If you want to work on your car, you know, you work with the craftsman.
And they'll tell people too, like, you know, your car's going to come off this week, so we'd like you to come. But they kind of lie about when it's going to come off, and so you go in, and your car's actually coming off the line that day, and so you're following the car, and you're going, wow, this is a really pretty car. And he has blue and and it's all the specs that this person did. And then when they go, it says, oh, hey, look at the tag hanging off the window. And they look, and it's their name on the tag. Oh, man. So, like, when we did our English motor trip, we come out, and they said, you can have anything in lot 2. So under this big light is this gigantic red SUV, and Gary is like a moth to the flame. He goes he goes to look at this car, you know, and I'm over here at this little tiny silver Polo, and I said, this is it. He goes, no, I need a big car. I said, no, this is it. And because brush marks from the hedgerows won't show on the silver. Right.
And then after hitting some of the back roads going to the Aston Martin Trust and stuff like that, I can see why he wanted a little tiny car.
A little tiny car. Because the roads kept getting smaller and smaller. And smaller.
And there's definitely etiquette within that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm never quite sure of that. Plus, you're driving on the other side of the road.
They have
when you got a big lorry coming the other way, you know, you're like, oh.
they have a sixth sense. And when we were down in Sussex and we were headed towards Marsh Models and John Simon's place, the road was like really narrow. I'm thinking, oh, God, there's like 20 miles to get to where we're going to go. Yeah. And the road, you can see like little dirt traces, and we look and we see a lorry coming. So we just go up like this, and Gary's up in the air, and I'm here, and the lorry's going by my face like this, and then it goes by, and then we drop back down to the road. It's like coming off a skateboard ramp, and it was. Oh,
man. I see 2 models here.
Yes.
One that I just now understand is 30 years old, and one is
very fresh. I actually built, back in 1991, I had won the Build a Batmobile contest through Scale Auto Enthusiasts.
Yeah, you were right out there on the cover.
Yes. Yeah, it was on the cover and everything. It did pretty good. And right after that, I get back into modeling. This was probably one of the first models I built after that. I'm surprised it's 30 years old and it's held up so good, the paint on it and everything. Actually, of what I saw today, there was a little tag on my paper saying that, you know, I guess it was in contention for the best paint. 30 years old. Go figure.
Not only is it, you know, bright and glossy and looks like fresh paint, panels have all stood well. You know, in 30 years,
just worked out good on this one.
Great.
It's surprising.
Is it a flip-flop paint or something?
It's not actually a flip-flop paint. It's nail polish is what it is, fingernail polish. Cool. So the basic bluish green here was put down, and then one color, and then I had a darker color of nail polish, which was a blue, and I went ahead and fogged in the bottoms, and I did a silver on the hood going down. And then everything was, you know, coated with clear and polished.
Oh, it's so beautiful, and I love the fogging because it's almost like clouds. It gets brighter as it rises up.
It rises up, yeah.
I mean, if you were illustrating it, if you were doing it in airbrush, you'd have your highlights just like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm one of the originators of the nail polish because I've been, I did it 25, 30 years ago. People weren't using nail polish then. And every polish is different. I said, what to do is go ahead and take a little jar and put some of your thinner in it. And you take about 2 drops of this and you drop it in there and see what happens. If you shake it up and it just goes all to like cobwebs, it's not compatible with that thinner. My go-to was my medium speed lacquer thinner because the fast, as soon as you're shooting it, it's already drying before it hits your model. So this is a 30-year-old one, and this is probably my latest one here, which has got the same glossy type paint job on it. It was a cinnamon orange that I bought off of somebody out in Toledo one year. And I shot it down as my base color. And then there was a guy here, Ace Rider. He uses an iridescent powder in his clears. That's got one of the oranges on it, which is the iridescent.
The powders.
The powders.
The iridescents are mixed with clear.
You mix it with clear, and then after you shoot your iridescent mixed with clear, then you switch to plain clear and you overcoat everything. But it turned out beautiful.
Love that color too.
But this was made out of an AMT Manx model that came out a few years ago.
The classic?
Yeah, the classic Myers Manx. Yeah. And, I wanted something a little bit sportier than what a Manx was, so I started hacking on it and cutting. Mm-hmm. I love doing body work. And I did the front, and then I'd move on to another model, and I came back to this one and did a little bit more and put the Lotus roof and all this kind of stuff on it. But what I didn't realize is after I got this thing finished, and I just realized this weekend, I never had it sitting next to a stock Manx. Because I've done all this body work over the years. Somebody had a stock Manx in here, and I set my car next to it, and I was surprised at how much body work I actually did on this thing. I didn't even realize. But you can't even hardly tell it's been a Manx.
Well, it has the flavor, and I recognize it as a Manx. But I'm guessing that every panel is kind of a little shift.
Yeah, everything's been shifted. Even the front end here now is this whole thing tilts forward, and it takes the whole dash up with it. The side panel has been opened over here already. And I was able to stuff a motor from the Acura NSX into the back, which is quite a big motor.
It's not underpowered at all.
Not underpowered at all, but it turned out quite well. But my newest and probably one of my oldest.
Nice. And you won an award for this?
Yeah, that took best in its class.
That's what I thought. So, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool at all. Yeah, I was surprised.
And you have another activity you do in the winter for all of us?
In the winter, we have a 24-hour build that we do. Me, Chip, and 3 or 4 other guys now meet in my family room downstairs, and we get it all set up with tables. I've got my paint booth down there, and we have dehydrators set up and everything. We start on a Saturday at noon, and we build until Sunday at noon. Start with our own kit that we want, brand new, and see if we can get it finished.
You've been doing this for how many years?
We've been doing this for 17 years now. Yeah. We just got coverage in the magazine this year.
Nice.
Actually, it just came out today, so I was able to get a look at it, and very nice. Nice article.
How many people joined this year?
We had close to 200 people around the world, and we all just stay connected through Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
So next year, hopefully with this article that came out, and hopefully even what we're doing here, we'll get our numbers up to about 300 or so next year.
Wow, that'll be great.
It's fun. It really is.
And the parameters of that are, I mean, you have fun.
Have fun. We got one rule, and John will appreciate this. We have one rule, and it's called the Brolin rule. And it was a member of our group, John Brolin. The first year he came out, he brought a white car, and he just polished the body. Is all we did. We said, no.
Well, so it was race car, so he put the decals on it, and it looked really nice.
That's kind of like cheating. No, we got to paint the model. So that's our one rule we had. It must be painted.
Got at least one layer of paint.
That's right.
Yeah, but you start with an unstarted kit. You're allowed to wash it and clean it, but not clean the parts or anything. Okay. Some people, I think, build rather rapidly. We're kind of particular, so we still fill in sinkholes and scrape mold lines and stuff like that. And you can glue 3 or 4 parts, because lots of times you got parts of the body you want to gas out really well. And then some of us, like me, are kind of stupid and decide that I'm going to do stuff like, let's wire the engine. Well, Gary's done that too.
I've wired the engine,
and let's do body modifications. Gary, the first one he did was like way modified. I was like, seriously?
It was a Mercedes Le Mans car. And the front, like for the Tamiya front hood is not molded in, and it should be if you look at photos. So I went ahead and I glued it in. I did all the putty work. I sanded it down. I primered it and polished it out and painted the whole bit.
Within 24 hours.
Within 24 hours.
Dehydrators. You got to have a dehydrator.
Dehydrators and lacquer paints and things. And one thing I learned a long time from Gary, because he does all this extensive body work, is using super glue to do filler on things and do the most minimal filler. So we did a thing a long time ago. It was starting with a common kit, the Chrysler Atlantic. And I made mine, I basically lowered it by about half its height and made it much shorter and made it into a 2-seat Barchetta. But I just did it with Gary's ideas of you fuse parts together, you maybe use a little bit of styrene to fill things in, but then you use super glue, because super glue, you can kick it and you can come right back and you can sand it down and you can look to see where the little low spots are. And super glue is very stable.
And it's archival too.
Yeah.
We had one gentleman in our building, he had a tube of the testers, the orange glue sitting there on a table. Jim Drew, everybody knows Jim Drew, he happened to call in on our Facebook type thing. And he said, tell Jeff to take the glue, hand it to Gary, tell him he's sorry, and get some epoxy and super glue. But because nothing's ever going to dry with that orange tube of glue. So we look at ways of building quicker.
Yeah.
So you really end up with a strategy.
Yeah, there's a strategy and a lot of
things. It's still stay very relaxed and have fun.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. One of the reasons we started doing this 24-hour builds is your buddy like Chip and I here, we go to a hobby shop maybe and meet for dinner or something, but that's about all we do. You never get to build with your buddies.
I'm always fascinated when I sit down with someone and they're building to see how do they hold an X-Acto.
Right.
Right.
How do they use it? I mean, now they're being left or right-handed. But holding pliers and getting your fingers around and how it opens up. There's a lot of really cool stuff
right.
that
And
way.
We've got 6 of us building there, and we do take the time to stop building on our own and go around and watch each other.
And just look over someone's shoulder.
You can say,
how's it
what
going?
kind of glue are you using? And they bring this little tube of Gorilla type glue, but and it works for putting on, so
and you
we
learn
new
some
tips.
things that people have done that they just take for granted as that's what they do, and then we go, wow, what are you doing?
And these are the different tools I use when I do this, and you don't have these tools, but boy, I'm going to run out and get those. And also sometimes you don't have the correct tool to do what you really want to do, but we got 5 other guys there, no problem. Somebody's got the correct tool.
That's great fun.
Yeah,
it's good to get together, just like we've been this weekend.
Right. That's I think why we like the GSL compared to the shows we normally go to, because here we're here for several days and we get to go out and meet with people and have a good time and visit with them, and so it's
so relaxed. And we come from far away, really, for the most part. So we get to meet with people that we don't see all the time at our general shows that we go to every year. This is cool. Well, I thank you guys. It's good to sit down and talk.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
Be well. Travel safe back home.